All right, I'm glad to see you here. We'll go ahead and get started now. So thanks for being here, you wonderful people. All right, let's see. Identify the vertex and use the vertex to graph quadratic equations. So last class, we talked about vertex form of the quadratic. So we were using, finding out where the vertex was, plot that point in the middle of a table, and then filling in the table up and then a little bit of the table down, and then basically filling in all of the data in there as we go along. Ooh, what was that? Okay, so we're going to talk some more about vertex form. So we learned about the standard form of a quadratic, and now we also have covered the vertex form of a quadratic. So we're going to learn how to convert one into the other. So in order to do that, we are going to need to have the trinomial, so standard form, so ax squared plus bx plus c, where b over 2 squared is equal to a times c. All right, so I know that's kind of a bit to think about, but well, let's see what we can do. So factoring. Now, I don't know where everybody is on their skills of factoring, but I know factoring is something that sometimes you'll cover in Algebra 1, and it's sort of, I don't know how often the geometry teachers here use it, but maybe we might need to go back and kind of set aside a day for it. But I'm going to try to give you guys the quick rundown on that. And what you would do is I call it the Loif method. Oopsie. And in this method here, you would have, okay, so let's see. We know about FOIL, right? So we know FOIL is a thing when you're multiplying two binomials, which is actually what we're going to have here. So we're going to have a binomial here and another one here. So I sometimes I call this the double bubble or the parenthesis, but that's usually the first step. And then after that, after we have the parentheses, we're going to, let's see, how was it I do this? So let's look at the last number first. So I want 16. Now I need two numbers that will multiply to 16. So think of two numbers that multiply to 16. And there's actually quite a bit of them. In fact, let me write a few of them down just again, because I don't know the full scope of how good everybody with factoring is. So 1 times 16, you can do 2 times 8 and 4 times 4. And if I ask most people to give me some numbers that that will multiply to 16, I'm usually going to get like 4 times 4, which in this case works out because we also need the outside and inside numbers to add up, right? So these will add and these need to multiply. So it kind of gives you something that looks like this. So multiply, add, multiply. So looking at the last number, it's positive 16. So if it's a positive 16, there's actually two possible outcomes, and that is, well, they could both be positive or they could both be negative. So in this case here, I'm going to go with positive here, because this one is a positive. That means that, well, it means that they're the same sign and they are both positive, because if I have 4 plus 4, I will still get 8. 4 plus 4 is 8. Now for the F part, the F is for first. So I need two numbers that will multiply to x squared. So in this case, it will be x times x. And I can check it by using the FOIL. So you might remember FOIL stands for first, outside, inside, last. And this is essentially the same thing. We're just going backward. We're taking it back apart, whereas in this case, you're kind of putting it together. All right, so let's go ahead and do another one. with this one here. So if I'm going to factor it now, I need to, let's see, let's stick with our Loif method. And I know it sounds kind of funny, but maybe it'll help you remember it. So the last number, so in this case, the last number of the trinomial is 81. So think of two numbers that will multiply to 81, but if I were to add these same numbers, you would get 18. And again, there's a lot of numbers we can multiply to get 81, but probably the one that I think most people will get to is 9 times 9. Okay, and there's a reason why we look at the first thing we look at is the last number, and that is because we also need to find out what signs go in here. So what signs do we need to have in there? So again, we have to get the OI, the outside inside, which is actually going to be this sign right here. And it's negative, but this one's positive. So actually what that tells me is that both of these are going to be negative, because negative 9 times negative 9 will be positive 81. But if I add negative 9 and negative 9 together, I will get negative 18. Last thing we need to do is actually the first number. So that would be F. So F here would be M times M. Now we also get something else. We get a perfect square trinomial. And what that means is that they're both the same thing inside each of these bubbles. So a lot of times what we will do instead, if instead of writing both bubbles, we might put a square like that. And that kind of like is a short way of writing that square number. All right, now let's go ahead and do this one. So we kind of well, actually, you know what? I'm not going to skip any steps. Let's do the whole thing again. So double bubble, look at the last number, which in this case is 1. So that should be easy because I need two numbers that will multiply to 1. 1 times 1 will be 1. But again, it's also important because this is the part that I usually get students not paying attention to, and that is the signs. We need the right signs to go in there. So I need a, and now if it's plus, which in this case, because it's a perfect square trinomial, there'll almost always be pluses on this second sign here. But again, you could have them both be negative like we did in this case. So what we need to do is look at this sign here, and that's positive because these two numbers, 1 and 1, will add to 2. And now, last thing we need to do is put in the a value, because a squared, the only way we can get it is a times a. And since they're the exact same thing in both parentheses, I'm going to go ahead and use the shorthand way of writing this, and we are going to have a plus 1 and have the whole thing squared. Or actually, we would say the sum of a and 1 squared. Because when you say the word sum, that usually means that it's in parentheses. All right, so let's go ahead and look at this last one here. So again, follow the steps. I need, in this case, two numbers that will multiply to 25. So 5 times 5 is a good combination to start with. And if it's positive, which in this case, again, it's mostly going to be positive, but I also want you to get into the habit of looking for this sign, right? So again, we're working backwards. We're working backwards from the way we should be working. So the next thing we need to do is look at this sign here. So our OI, these numbers, 5 and 5, need to add up to negative 10. So if I were to put plus and plus here, that's not going to work because 5 plus 5 is not going to be negative 10. So again, we need to make sure that we put the right sign there. So in this case, negative 5 plus negative 5 is going to be negative 10. So that works out. And then last number here, put the in this case, P in there. And since they're the exact same thing in both parentheses, I'm going to go ahead and erase that and put a square in there. And again, this is kind of a review, but I also know that it was a long time ago, and with all the stuff going on, I'm not sure how, you know, how good everybody is with factoring and all that stuff. So let's move on. So again, we're taking standard form and turning it into vertex form. So here is the steps. So again, we're looking for a perfect square. So kind of remember what we were looking for. Okay, so let's see. If the standard form equation is a perfect square, like 1, simply factor and convert it to vertex form. If not, you can use a process called completing the square to write the equation in vertex form. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and group these two together. So ax square and bx. So just the first two terms of your standard form. So basically you're just going to put a parenthesis around these two things. Now, if a is not equal to 1, so basically if you have any number out front, you're going to have to take that number and find a way to get it outside. So that's like the reverse distributive, where you're taking two things from the inside numbers. All right, and this one here, if you're gonna use completing the square, what you got to do is take that b value, and what you do is you take it, half it, square it. Okay, this is the new c value, and you add that to your other two terms, and that's how you make a perfect square trinomial. All right, it seems kind of confusing, but we'll work on that, and it'll probably be a little bit more easier to get that once you've seen a few examples. Now, subtract a and a times c from the end of the equation, and then factor the trinomial and simplify the end of the equation. Okay, so again, I know that's a lot of stuff to think about. Luckily, it's written here, and we won't have to wait too long to get all of these in. So let's go ahead and just jump right into it, because again, I'm pretty sure that this is going to be the way it is. All right, so first thing we got to do, like it said, we got to group these first two together. So x squared plus 4x. Now, here I'm going to end up with a b value. So this is my b value. And again, we take it, half it, square it. So take it, half it, square it. So let's take our 4 here. So take it, half it, and square it, which in this case turned out to be weird because it just kind of became back to what it was. All right, so we're going to have to put this 4 in here. So what's going to happen is I'm going to end up with x squared plus 4x. And again, I'm going to put 4 in here. Okay, so this is the this is our new 4, and this is a kind of a this might be a little bit of a confusing example because we have a 4 on the outside already. Now, anytime you put something in, all right, nothing in math is free. If you put something in, you have to be ready to take it back out again. So in this case here, I'm going to take out 4 because if I add in 4 and then take out 4, it balances back out. Again, I didn't just put numbers in there and leave it at that. Whatever you put in there, you're going to have to take it out later. Now, in this case here, these are going to cancel out. But I'm also going to have to factor what's in the bubble here. So I need 2 numbers that will multiply to 4, and those same numbers will add to 4. So in this case, it'd be 2. And now I need to work on the sign. So again, Loif method, OI, is the middle term. So in this case, they would be the same, and they are both going to be the same as the first one. So plus, plus, and then x and x here. And 4 minus 4 is going to be 0. So I'm going to just put plus 0 here just so that way you can get into the habit of seeing where that number went. And then from here, I am going to put x plus 2 equals, oh, sorry. I meant to put square because, again, I have two of those things. So that's going to be squared. And I can also put this into vertex form too. So when I put it into vertex form, I could put it as y, or in this case here, we have f of x. So f of x equals this. And again, just think of the last lesson that we did. If there's nothing there, it would be 0. And then the directions say to give the vertex. So vertex, in this case, remember, you use your h and k value. So it's going to be opposite of h, and it's going to be the k value here. So I have negative 2, 0. So if I were to graph this, I know where the vertex is going to be. So if I know where the vertex is going to be, it's going to be a little bit easier to graph it. All right. So again, not the best example, I guess, of this. So let's go ahead and do another one. Now this one is not a perfect square, because if you're looking at this one and you were thinking to yourself, couldn't we just factor that to begin with? And that's true. We could have easily just factored that and we didn't have to really bother with this outside 4. All right, but sometimes, again, I just did that so you could see the process. All right, so let's go ahead and do this again. Now we got to group these first two together. Group those first two terms together. Now I'm going to leave a space here like that. So there's a big open space because I'm going to put a new number in there. I'm going to put a number in there that's going to make it into a perfect square trinomial so that we can factor it later. All right, so we need to find out what our b value is. So take it. So in this case, we take negative 8, take it, half it, square it. All right, so take it, half it, square it. So it's negative 8. Half of that is negative 4, and negative 4 times negative 4 is going to be 16. So I'm going to drop a 16 in here. X squared minus 8x. And I'm going to, again, drop the 16 right here. Plus 18. Now, nothing is free, okay? So if I give a 16 here, I'm going to have to take it, all right? It's going to have to be taken so that I can use it later, all right? Because again, I just can't be putting in numbers, right? So it's like borrowing it. I can't just put in numbers. I have to move them around, or in this case, borrow it, because I take 16, but then I also have to give 16. And then from here, let's go ahead and factor this. So use our double bubble method or life method. I've called this double bubble for the longest time, so I kind of have that habit. So let's go ahead and think of two numbers that make 16, which is pretty easy. And oh yeah, and it's always going to be this number here. I should point that out. Kind of as a shortcut, it's always going to be that middle number from the take it, half it, square it step. Because I need these two numbers to multiply to be 16. And if I have positive 4 times positive 4, that would be 16. But the problem is they will not add to negative 8. In order to have it add to negative 8, I'm going to have to make them negative 4. So negative 4 add to negative 4 will make negative 8. And then last one is the first step. So in this case, x times x will be x squared. Now, here we are going to have something different on the outside. We have 18 minus 16, which in this case is going to be plus 2. Now I need to write this into the vertex form. So in this case here, it's f of x. So f of x equals x minus 4 squared plus 2. There we go. So now it's in vertex form, and I can easily just spot the vertex. So vertex in this case is, remember, opposite of this number. So that's going to be 4 and 2. Oh, and it should be an ordered pair as well. I should have put the other one in parentheses as well, because we're talking about a point on a graph. And there we go. We're done with this one for now. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Now, in this case here, remember on one of the steps it said to, okay, so on step number 2, it says if A is not equal to 1, factor it so that it does become a value on the outside. So in this case here, we are going to have to change a little bit of this to get it to work. So I'm going to go ahead and put a parenthesis here, and then I have to take that negative out. That negative has to come out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out the negative, and that's going to turn this to be positive. But remember, this is like multiplying, but backwards. So we're going to have 6 here, and it's going to be negative 6x. Because if I were to turn it back, multiply it out, and negative times positive is negative, works. But negative times negative should be positive, and that also should work. All right, so I'm going to leave some space in here because we're going to have to put a new number in there, a new C value. And then put that 5 back right there. So let's do the same thing with this negative 6. So take it, half it, and then square it. So negative 3 times negative 3 will be positive 9. So that means I need to drop in a 9 here and here. Okay, so again, add 1, minus 1 of the numbers that you put in. Okay, now this negative here is really going to affect things normally, so that's why we had to take it out. But now we can just set it aside and ignore it for now. So I'm going to go ahead and put in the 2 parentheses, and then we'll work on factoring it again. So again, LOIF means L, or the last number goes first. So 2 numbers that multiply to 9. So in this case, that'd be 3 times 3. But again, they need to add up to negative 6. And the only way I could do that is if they are both negative. So negative 3 combined with negative 3 is going to make negative 6. And in this case here, because there's no A value, and in fact we have to get rid of it, like in step 2, negative 5 minus 9. Oh, wait a minute. Weird. Okay. All right, so when we check it, it didn't work out. The vertex is not 14. It was 4 on the graph from Desmos. And okay, so this is a small thing and I almost forgot it too, so be careful with it. Now, in this case, see how I added 9? That's not adding 9 actually. In real, if you were to consider this negative, you were minusing it. So if I were to distribute this negative, all the signs would flip, and that would be a minus 9, which in this case here, if I were to minus 9, then that means I would have minus 9 twice. So to offset this 9, I need to add 9 to this number here. So in fact, actually, this one will be 4. Negative x minus 3 squared minus 4, and then put the f of x in there, and there we go. And then last thing we need to do is show our vertex. So again, be careful with that. This is kind of a new thing, is if you have a negative on the outside, you're actually gonna have to do the opposite of what you're doing. And in this case here, we take the opposite of this number. So 3 and then negative 4. I don't want to put it in a box so that way we show the answer because it says to give the vertex. All right, so this one also has an a value. So there is a number on that first number. So remember, when you group it, you have to make it so that you only have x squared. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to take a number and divide it out, just like we did with the negative here. So both numbers are even. So that means we should be able to divide them both by 2. So 2 and x squared minus 6x. In fact, actually, I'm going to leave a wider space because I'm going to need that wider space soon. And then from here, we are going to do the same thing. So we need a new value to put in here to make it balance out. So take our b value, so take it, half it, square it. Now I should put plus 9 here. Now this is also another thing that you have to take care of because just like the other one, we almost forgot the negative. You might be saying, well, let's put 9 right here, but actually that's not quite true because this is not really 9. I mean, it looks like 9, it smells like 9, it probably tastes like 9, but it's actually 18 because 2 times 9 would be 18. So again, you still have to consider this outside number. So let's go ahead and factor this out. So start out with my 2 parentheses, and I'm going to put in 9. So 2 numbers that multiply to 9. So I got 3 times 3. And then here I have negative 6. So the only way to get negative 6 would be to have them both be negative 3. Put in our last number, and then I'm going to combine these two together. So 13 minus 18 is negative 5. So 2x minus 3 squared minus 5. And there we go. So we have our, we have it. Oh yeah, that's right. It's going to be the opposite of this one here. So that's going to be 3 and negative 5, our vertex. And it's actually getting pretty fast. I mean, with a little bit of practice, this is going to go by pretty quick actually. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the next one. And actually there's quite a few of them, I believe. Looks like we're looking at about, let's see, 8 more examples maybe, because each of these have 2 on them. So let's go ahead and do this one. So maybe this one, actually this one kind of looks like an easy one. Hopefully this one will be easy. All right, so first thing we got to do is take it. And in fact, actually I'm going to kind of skip this step here. So normally I write it again. Just so I can have that space. But I'm going to go ahead and just use it from here. So I'm going to kind of, not really a shortcut, but I'm going to just sort of like skip writing one line altogether. So take it. Oh no, it looks like when we half it, we're going to get a fraction. So we're in this case here, we're going to have to divide it by 2, which we put a 2 underneath. And we're going to have to square that. So 9 over 4. So in this case here, it looks like we're going to have to put a fraction in there. Now, I'm also going to have to rewrite this. So x squared minus 3x. Leave a space because I'm going to have to minus 9 over 4. Oh, wait, is that minus or is that plus? I think it's plus. Yeah, it's going to have to be plus. Now I have nothing out here, so that makes it kind of easy because now all I have to do is drop this right there as a negative. Now we can start factoring this. And again, you do have a bit of a hint. It's the number that goes inside the double bubbles is going to be this middle number from the take it, half it, square it step. So in this case here, it's going to be x minus 3 over 2, x minus 3 over 2. And you could factor it too. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, that's probably a much better way of doing this. Now I got to work on this outside number. And if you don't add fractions, this can be a pretty tough one. In this case here, I would probably tell you to just convert it to decimal, which 9 divided by 4 would be about 2.25, I believe. 2 plus 2.25. Anyway, I'm gonna have to put these together. I'll put it right, I'm gonna have to write it somewhere. I'll put it up here. So I'm gonna have to put a 1 underneath it. And now I need the bottom numbers to be the same. So this is kind of a long way around. So again, like I said, if you convert this one to decimal, I won't hold it against you or any problems like this. So I need them both to have a bottom number of 4, what we call common denominator. So I need to multiply this number by 4. So times the bottom number by 4, and then times the top number by 4. And in this case here, since they're both negative, -8 and -9, that's going to be -17 over 4. And if I were to divide that, that'd be like 4.25 or something like that. Anyway, let's go ahead and put it into vertex form, which again is actually not so bad once you get the hang of it. All right, and now we put it in vertex form. Let's go ahead and give the vertex. So vertex, it's usually not an equal. Vertex is -3, 2. And then the other part is going to be -17 over 4. And that's it for that one. All right, so let's go ahead and try that same thing. So again, I did skip that step because I knew this one was going to be a little bit of a longer one with all the stuff going on. So let's do the same thing with this one here. So I'm going to go ahead and group these first ones. Now, when I group it, I cannot separate the negative and the x squared. So I'm going to have to do that in this step here. So I'm going to have to take out the negative. And that's going to reverse both of these signs. So in this case here, I'm going to have to take 9. So 9, take it, half it, and then square it. So in this case, if I square it, I'm going to get 81 over 4. And they are just not going to let us have nice things. But again, we don't really need to work with this a whole lot. So positive 81 over 4, because I can just use this 9 over 2, and that will be my number that's paired with it. And oh yeah, now this negative again is going to affect this number here because that's negative 81 over 4. It looks like a positive, but this is going to change it to a negative. So actually, when we put it back in, we are going to have to, so we have negative 22, which is right there. And I'm going to have to add 81 over 4. And again, you can go ahead and turn this into a fraction. In fact, a decimal, and it would probably be better that way. This one, you don't have to change it because if I'm going to convert it back into this, it's going to be this number. So 9 over 2. And now I have to put these two together. And this one I am gonna do it. I'm just gonna take my calculator, and I could easily do it, but it's gonna take a while. So 81 divided by 4. So negative 22 plus 20.25. So again, I just took 81 and divided it by 4, and that's what I got. And then from here, I'm just going to put this back in so that I get, let's see, what am I going to get? 20 minus 22. So that's like, in this case here, again, like I said, I'm just going to put it in, I'm going to just put it in decimal. So that's going to be 1.75 here. And you could probably even turn this one into a decimal. 9 divided by 2 would just be 4.5. But again, whatever works for you best. All right, last thing, put it into vertex form. So vertex form is going to be an ordered pair. So it's going to be -9/2 and -1.75 in this case. And like I said, it's not a whole lot of work. Just use this number, drop it into the bubble, rewrite it, and you're pretty much done. All right, let's move on to the next one. All right, so it looks like this one is missing a C value, which is actually going to work pretty well, I think, because in this case here it would be just +0, and that's all there would be is just a 0 on the outside. So let's go ahead and get 5, and then take it, half it, square it. And again, we probably won't need this number in the future. The middle number is the one we're really looking for. Okay, let me do this whole thing from the beginning. So again, let's, well, in this case, there's nothing outside, so whatever I put in there is just gonna be that 25/4 plus, and actually no, it'd be minus as well, so -25/4. And somehow I feel like this might actually already be in vertex form. Or is it? No. Oh, no, it wouldn't be because of the square. Yeah, that square is not, I don't know, I just had a weird thought there. All right, so again, let's put this in here. So normally if we were to factor it, yeah, we'd have to think, okay, how can I multiply 25/4 in a perfect square trinomial? But again, just use that number right there, because it's pretty much already the number you need to have it be. So plus, because again, this is a plus, drop that in there. And it looks like we still have this -25/4. So let's go and put that back in there. And then put it into function notation. So f of x equals, and then take one of these because they're both the exact same set of binomials. And then we're going to put a square in there over 25/4. And there we go. So we got it again. I mean, no problem, pretty much. Now we just got to name the vertex. So vertex is -5/2, -25/4. And again, nope, don't forget to make this a negative. All right. Whew. Okay, let's see. Group these two together. And then it looks like we're gonna have to work with, oh wait, hold on. Before we do that too, we're gonna have to get this, because remember, we cannot have an a value that's anything other than 1. So divide that by 4. So basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna divide both of those numbers by 4. And then I have no other numbers on the outside, so I'm gonna leave it blank, but it would be a +0 though. But that's not gonna really change anything. So let's go ahead and take this b value. So let's take that number. So take it, half it, square it. So in this case, I get +1. Now, I also have to add a -1 here, okay? But again, be careful, because if you have a number on the outside, that means it's not actually 1. It's going to be, in this case, -4. Because you have to multiply this number and that number together. And actually, that was one of the steps. Let's see, I have to go back a little bit. But that's what this step kind of means here. So take it, half it, square it, and then subtract the a times c from the end of the equation. So like I said, it didn't make a whole lot of sense when I went over it the first time, but that's the part that they're talking about. Take away ac from both sides. That's what this is. That's the a, and that's the c, a times c right there, subtracting it. All right, now let's go ahead and put it into, I think we are ready to put it into function notation. How come this one was so short? I don't know. 4 and then, oh, okay, I see why, because I didn't factor this part just yet. Now we could do like this here. In fact, you know, I'm going to do that. X minus 1, x minus 1 minus 4. Now I need two numbers that multiply to positive 1, which negative 1 times negative 1 will multiply to positive 1. Negative 2, I'm sorry, negative 1, put them together, you will get negative 2. So I guess we weren't, well, I mean, I could have just skipped it, you know, I could have just skipped writing that one and then just wrote straight to something that looks like this. Which now we have our vertex and our vertex form. So take our numbers and they will appear just as seen. So it's going to be 1 and negative 4. So that's our vertex. Oof. All right, making some pretty good progress there. How are we doing on time? We're doing okay. And again, these are going a little bit faster than I was expecting, but it may not be a bad thing. But I don't know. I also don't want to make it too fast. So let's go ahead and keep going with some of these here. So let's go ahead and group these first two here. Now, when I'm taking this out, I have a negative on the A, but I also have 2. So that means I'm gonna have to take out negative 2. So again, think about, okay, so we divide this by negative 2 divided by negative 2, that's gonna be just this left over. 20 divided by negative 2, so that's gonna be negative 10x. Leave a space, because we're going to put the minus 46 here. Now I need to put a new number in here that'll make it work into a perfect square trinomial. So negative 10, take it, half it, square it. So in this case, it'd be plus 25. Now, be careful because again, we can't just do this. We can't just put a negative 25 right there. We have to multiply the A and C, right? So in this case, I would get negative 50. But we also have to do the opposite of that. So if this case here, because this would be negative 50, that means I'd have to change that to plus 50. All right, now it looks like we're ready to start putting this together. So negative 2. And again, I could probably skip this step here, but I'm going to go ahead and not do that. So two numbers that multiply to 25. Two numbers that multiply to 25 would be 5 and 5. But again, check this sign here because it should add up to negative 10. If they were plus, then that would not add up to negative 10. It would be positive 10. So it's got to be negative 5 on each of those. Put that x there and then combine these. So 50 minus 46 would be plus 4. Okay, now it looks like we're ready to write it into function notation. So f of x equals negative 2 and then x minus 5 squared plus 4. And is that right? Seems that one seemed, I don't know, kind of easy, but oh well, I guess I shouldn't question a gift. Because so far we've been having to work with some of these that have like weird fractions and stuff. So I just like, anyway. So let's go ahead and put this into Vertex form. There we go. Actually, there's nobody in the classroom today, so I don't really have to wear my mask. Oh well. Not going to change it just now. All right, let's go ahead and put this and this in a group. Now, this one has a fraction, so we're gonna have to do something to get rid of the fraction. So I'm gonna divide that, right? Divide that by divide the fraction out so that I get negative 1/2 and x squared. And this one's actually a really tricky one. I run into students kind of all the time that do this. So what number would I have to times by half to get 4? And that's a tricky question because I think a lot of people would say, well, it would be 2. But if we check it, take this and multiply it by this, and do we get that? Half times 2 is going to be 1, so that's not going to work out. So actually, in this case, we would have to put in 8x. And check it, take half of 8, you get negative 4. Well, that one was a negative, so yeah, that does work out. But well, just ignoring the sign, half of 8 is 4. So actually, when you divide, you actually get a bigger number, which is, again, different from the way you would think. Because when I say divide something, the thing that comes to most students' minds is it's going to get smaller. All right, so let me go ahead and put that there, and we're going to have to find a new b value. So take 8, take it, half it, square it. And okay, if I put in 16, I'm also going to have to do the opposite here. So again, multiply this and this. So 16 times negative 1/2. So I have to do the opposite. Since it says, since it would be, it would actually be 8 or negative 8 if I multiply these together. So I got to add 8 there. Whew. So again, that's a bit of a tricky thing. So be careful. Multiply this and that and do the opposite here. So again, it says subtract, but if you subtract a negative, you're essentially just adding that number back on. Okay, so let's go ahead and factor this out. So two numbers that multiply to 16 and add up to positive 8. So that would mean that 4 plus 4 is 8. X, and then 8 minus 5 would be 3. And it looks like we're ready to write it into vertex form in function notation. X plus 4 squared, and then, oh, plus 3. I already wrote it right here. I don't need to work on that again. So the vertex would be negative 4 and 3. Okay. And that's it. Stay hydrated. All right, let's go ahead and move on to this one here. So convert to vertex form and identify the vertex axis of symmetry and then graph it. All right, so we have this in standard form. And remember, in this case, if we wanted to graph this the normal way, we'd have to do the negative b over 2a. Take that number, put it in the middle, find some values. So let's see if this would be a little bit easier, faster, whatever. So I'm going to go ahead and group these first two together right now so that we get x squared minus 12x. And I'm going to leave a space. In fact, I'm going to leave a little bit more space here. Plus 39. All right, so negative 12. So take it, half it, square it. So that would be plus 36 like that. And if I put in a 36, I'm gonna have to minus 36. And since I have no number out here, that's gonna be pretty straightforward. I can just do the opposite. All right, now I can go ahead and factor this out. which again, it's just going to be this number right here, your middle number from your take it, half it, square it. So 6 and 6. So again, 6 times 6 is 36, but they have to add up to negative 12. And if I put them as positive, that'd be positive 12. So again, just take that number right here, and that's kind of a shortcut. And then 39 minus 36 would be plus 3. And I think we're pretty much done. F of x equals x minus 6 squared plus 3. And it says here, identify the vertex. So 6, 3 is our vertex. Axis of symmetry. So axis of symmetry in this case would just be the x value from your vertex. So x equals 6. And just because they're asking for the axis of symmetry, they didn't say, they didn't say graph the axis of symmetry as well. But since they mentioned it, I'm going to go ahead and put the axis of symmetry here. Right, so that's the line of x equals 6. And we could also put this into here, so 6 and 3, so that's a free one. And I could also go 5, 4, 3, so count down and then count up, which in this case, it's not going to really make a difference. Now, in this case here, we could use the rule of odds. So we know the vertex is over 6 up 3. The original formula does not have an a value. So this means that you would use the rule of odds. So remember that you just go by odd numbers, 1, 3, 5, and usually 7, but 7 doesn't always appear there. In fact, we might not even have that many. So over 1, up 1 on both of these, and then up 3 like this. And then we could just mark these points. So if I go over 5, or in fact, this one's 4. So that'd be 7 here and 7 here. And if I go over 5, that'd be up 4. Is that 4? Yeah, 4. And I could probably go up 5 from 7. Okay, so that'd be 12. If you are unsure, in fact, I'm going to have to do this one for the next one. Grab your original equation. So x squared minus 12x plus 39, and then drop in one number. So in this case, I'm going to do 3, and we should get 12. And we should do it for all of these. But again, I'm going to just, hopefully, if the shortcut makes sense to you, then go ahead and do it that way. But if not, then you're going to have to do what we did for the past 2 weeks and just plug it in and work on all of them. So I'm going to go ahead and evaluate this whole thing. So negative 12 times 3 is 36. So that'd be 39. And let's see, what would this be? 39 minus 36. Or I could put them both together, but I think these two are so close, I'm going to go ahead and just leave it like that. So that'd be 9 plus, and then 39 minus 36 would be 3. So 9 plus 3 is 12, which matches here again. And I would just have to do this with all of these numbers. So with 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and so on. But again, knowing a few shortcuts can make things a little bit easier and a little bit faster. So graph that and we are done. You're done with this one. All right, so with this next one, I know we cannot use the rule of odds. So we're gonna have to do this whole thing from the beginning and pretty much every step. So moving on. Convert to vertex form. Identify the vertex, axis of symmetry, and then graph. So group our first two numbers. And in this case here, I'm gonna have to take out the negative 3. So divide this by negative 3. So a negative divided by a negative would be positive. 12 divided by 3 is 4. And I'm gonna leave some space here. And then let's see, I need a new value here. So take your b value, take it, half it, square it. So in this case, it looks like we just end up putting 4 back in. And again, not just minus 4, because maybe I should have done this too, but let's go ahead and multiply this together. So a times c, so that's negative 3 times 4 is negative 12. So this number here, it looks like 4. Again, it would fool you to think that it's 4, but it's actually not a 4, it's actually negative 12. So in this case here, I'd have to offset that by adding 12. And again, this is one of the trickier things, I think, I don't know, being forgotten. So let's go ahead and go f of x equals negative 3, and oops. Oh, well, I'm going to just throw this in there. So x plus 2 squared. And again, it's just that number. This number goes in here. So if it turns out to be a negative, then it would be like a minus in here. Anyway, let's see, plus 4. And that's it. That's pretty much it. I did skip that step of factoring it. But again, if you're used to it, you probably don't even really need to really bother with it. So here sorry, let's go ahead and do our vertex. So this would be negative 2 and 4, which this is a free one. Your middle number is just free. It's just sort of given to you, and you don't have to really do a whole lot of work for it. And our axis of symmetry is going to be x equals negative 2. So I know that my graph is going to be symmetrical from here. Now I'm going to have to number up and number down. So this is going to be negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, negative 1, 0, 1. Okay, so again, we cannot use the rule of odds in this case, because in order to use the rule of odds, you'd have to have that first number be 1, like that. But in this case, it's still negative 3. So we're going to have to do the whole thing one by one. So let's go ahead and plug in negative 5 as our first number. So negative 3 and then x squared. But again, it's going to be negative 5 plus 12 times x, which again, x is going to be first as negative 5 minus 8. Let's see. Oh yeah, square it. So make sure you square it first. So this is negative 5 times negative 5. So that would be 25. Negative times negative. So 12 times 5. And that would be 60. So plus 60 minus 8. Negative 75. And then 60 minus 8. 60 minus 8 would be 52. And then I got 52 minus 75. And that would be negative 23. And that's way off of the graph. So I'm just going to go ahead and fill this inside on the other side too. Just again, that's my own kind of, I don't want to say shortcut, but it's just something that I kind of skip. That's more of a skip step, actually. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the next number, which in this case would be 0. Because I kind of get the feeling this one might be off the graph. Or actually, no, let's just go in order. So the next one would be 4. Negative 4 times negative 4 would be 16. Negative times negative is positive, and 12 times 4 is 48 minus 8. And 48 minus 48 minus 8 would just be 40. And then 16 times 3, that'd be 48. Negative 48, sorry. And 40 minus 48 would be negative 8. All right, next number will be negative 3. So we're gonna have to, and again, you would probably, when working on this, would use a separate sheet of paper and just write this over and over. You know, you'd have a bunch of calculations on one sheet, but I don't have that, so I'm gonna have to just erase it each step. So negative 3 times negative 3 would be positive 9. And then 12 times 3 would be 36. And then I'm going to have to do these two. So this would be negative 27. And then 36 minus 8. What is 36 minus 8? 28, okay. Plus 28. And 28 minus 27, well, that's really close. That'd be like 1. And we know this is the vertex because, well, that's what we did all this for. And then -1 here, so -1, -1, so we got 1 here. And then this would be plus 12 minus 8. So -3 times 1 is -3. 12 minus 8 would be 4, so that would be 1 as well. And lastly, 0. So I know I kind of knew it was going to be a little bit easy on this one here, so put a 0 here. And that's going to be super easy because 0 squared and then times by 0 is going to be 0. So this is going to be 0 minus 0 minus 8. And the only thing that I'm left with is -8. Right? Because these zeros, they don't change anything. So that'd be just -8. All right, so there we go. Now we can graph it. So it looks like we only have these areas that we can graph. So let's go ahead and put them in. So -4, -8. And then next one would be -3 up 1. Next one is -2 up 4. And then -1 up 1. So starting from the middle, -1 up 1. 0, -8. And that's pretty much it. So we have a very stretched parabola. There we go. So that's what it looks like, very stretched. So it's being pulled this way. All right, and I think that does it for us today. Yeah, that's it, I guess. So, well, this week we have the testing. What was it called? I'm trying to remember what it was called. I know we changed the testing format. It's called the Performance Matters. So check your emails. I sent you a link. Click on that link. Open up that thing that it goes to, and enter your username and password. You can use it on a desktop, or you can use it on your school issue iPad. But make sure you get that testing done, because that's going to be, we're going to have to collect that by the end of the week. So I'd say try to aim for Wednesday. In fact, I might actually set aside Wednesday for us. So I might actually not have the second packet, the second lesson in the packet actually be something that you're supposed to do. So I don't know, maybe I'll make it extra credit. I kind of wish I planned ahead of this, because I know usually on a testing day, I like to give students extra time to test, but we'll see how it works out, okay? So just be ready for anything. And that will be it for today. So that's what I got, my announcements, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.